So, what's trigonometry? Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm pretty sure you guys know what that is. Here, when I say trig, I'm talking about trig derivatives. Yeah, that's right. Trigonometry has derivatives. Just like regular polynomial derivatives, all the rules still apply to trig as well, and these include ones such as the chain, the product, and the quotient rule. The only thing that isn't the same is the actual process for taking a derivative of a trig. Don't worry, it's not really difficult. In fact, if I think about it, it's easier to work with trig than it is with polynomials. Instead of taking a derivative based on what's inside the polynomial, you just have to memorize the derivatives for each type of trig. And that's it. There's no process really. It's just memorization. And not much memorization at that. There is something to be careful about when trying to mess with trig, and this especially applies to students that are new to calculus. Although I'm making trig sound like it's super easy, it's also what they would call a double-edged sword. That is my pathetic looking sword. Sure, it's easy if you know your stuff, but if you don't memorize the material, then you can't answer any of the questions correctly. It's absolutely important that you memorize all the material based on the exam 1 review. Okay, there's not much to talk about trig since we already know a lot about derivatives. And that's all there is to say about trig really. It's just a different type of derivative. Over here we have a short list of basic trig derivatives. You will need to know these by heart for any calculus exam from here on out. And that's it really. Since I finished the topic here pretty quickly, I guess it'd be a good idea to go over the chain and product and quotient rules briefly. I probably upset some of you guys when I didn't go over them in the last video. So for the chain rule exists because sometimes there are functions which would have functions inside their functions. Basically, when you take a derivative, you apply it to everything, including the inside of the function. This rule is something that is difficult to grasp but easy to apply. I remember having the most difficult time trying to grasp what was going on. Even the concept seemed a little bit confusing. My teacher actually taught me by representing internal functions as blobs, like you have something here, you know that you would take the derivative by bringing this down and subtracting 1, but you also have to take the derivative of this inside part, which is what I call a blob, and the derivative of that would be 10x. So basically it is something that needs to be affected by the chain rule, and besides the overarching umbrella function, there might be one or more blobs taking up the inside space, so it's always a good habit to remember chain rule in every derivative you're doing. So for the product and quotient rules, there are actually formulas. These are your formulas: derivative of the first times the second plus derivative of the second times the first. And this would be for the product rule. For the quotient rule, you would have derivative of the first times the second minus derivative of the second times the first all over second square. These are used when irreducible variables are multiplied or divided with each other, and I always find it is really helpful to repeat what we just went over: derivative first times the second plus derivative second times the first, and derivative first times second minus derivative second times the first all over second square. I don't care how well anyone can differentiate, because repeating these will ensure that no mistakes will be made, and I highly suggest that you repeat these phrases 100% of the time. When I first started, I actually thought I was too cool to repeat these phrases in my head, so Yeah, I didn't really do that well. Work smarter, not harder. Hope this helps, and I'll see you next time.